जयति जयति भारत माता बुध गीता 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 निखिल मतवन निरतनत जन सुगीता निखिल मतवन निरतनत जन सुगीता निखिल मतवन निरतनत जन सुगीता जयति जयति जयति।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं दैवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. I place my humble salutations upon the lotus feet of Saint Vedavyasa, by whose grace today we are able to discuss the various incidents of the Mahabharata, and in particular the Bhagavad Gita. We continue upon Arjuna's dilemma, and we have looked into the aspects of Sankara and the Pindodaka Kriya, which will become depleted once the clash of the families happen, and families and the clans in particular, and the traditional values are destroyed. We continue looking into what Arjuna thinks about these aspects. He says, दोषैर्येतैः कुलघ्नानां वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्साद्यन्ते जातिधर्माः कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः. Kulagnanam. Ghna means to kill. Kulagnana means the people who destroy the kula. The kula essentially meaning maybe the family, the skilled group, the clan, whatever we can call it. It is like a union in essentiality, a group of people who share a common skill. These people, with the motive to terminate families, create unwarranted and illegitimate progeny, as we discussed in the previous shloka of how various conquerors conquering and wars lead to such a situation. Directly or indirectly, they become the cause of two types of dharma destructions. There are two types of dharma, the kula dharma and the jati dharma. The jati dharma is based on a group of a profession. When all members of a profession are endangered or killed, the profession itself becomes obsolete. It is lost to eternity. The Kula Dharma is the second, the traditions of the family, the cultural values, the traditional values that are orally preached to the children by the family elders. When the elders of the family, the Kula, are killed, the passing of these values hits a major roadblock. Thus, the winners of war, directly or indirectly again, when they win the war, if they do not have a motive towards destroying clans, still there will be the commanders, the remaining soldiers, and any one of them might go into the wrong decision of destroying the remaining members of the family of the deceased. So, we can conclude by Arjuna's words that he thinks that this war will cause the depletion, irreparable damage, and endanger the existence of the clan and many families. That's why he says doshaihi etaihi kulagnanam varnasankara karakaihi. Varnasankara is what we saw in the previous set of shlokas, essentially in the previous discourse. I will place a link above this video to the previous discourse if required. So the jati dharma is depleted, the kula dharma is depleted, and It is depleted for eternity. Shashvataha. Shashvataha means nirantaraha, eternity. And he also says, Utsanna kula dharmanam manushyanam janardanam narake niyatam vasaha bhavati tyanushushruman. This has a very direct meaning, and then we will explore the huge inner meaning imbibed in this shloka. Directly, Arjuna says, Utsanna kuladharmanam manushyanam janardhana. People who are separated, or rather destroy kuladharmas, such people, O Krishna, narake niyatam vasam. They are forced to stay in hell for eternity. Bhavati tyanushruma. I have studied about it. My teachers have told me this message, that when you destroy a kula, your existence in hell is very long, indefinite, permanent. So, this is a very plain statement. It seems like a statement that every human mentions in his life. Oh my God, if I make this mistake, I will suffer in hell. Many people say it. But the insight given by various bhashyakaras about this is mind blowing. Once life is over, once the body becomes old or damaged, that the Atman cannot stay in the body anymore, naturally the Atman leaves the body and it goes elsewhere to a new body, or leading to moksha, which is no birth. So these are the two things that can happen. But in the intermediate travel time that we say, between going from one body to another body, the Atman undergoes a hell and heaven dependent on the karma accumulated in the janma, in the particular janma, the karma which a person has committed in that particular sharira. So we all know that everything in this world is a type of energy, and essentially this has not come from research from the West, and I essentially say we do not need to wait for the West to discover everything to tell us. They have recently given a thesis about intermittent fasting and why we should consume water while sitting down and not standing up, and how it will help the body. All these have been given to us by our ancestors. We should be proud of it, and we as Indians should not wait for the West to come back and tell us all this. We have the knowledge, and the attitude where we wait for the West to approve us has to go away. This attitude of gaining approval from the West is what caused our colonization in the first place. Getting a good name from the foreigner. That should not be the image. We have a lot of knowledge in our ancestral scripts, and we must try to take all that knowledge and use it for our benefit, rather than waiting for the West to discover the same and tell us, and then becoming fascinated by it and saying, oh, our ancestors also told the same thing. We must not wait for it. So essentially, karma is a source of energy, and this source of energy is stored in the open space, not in a particular place, like the open lost sound. When you clap your hands, the sound is lost to eternity as a form of energy. It is lost. So in the same way, karma is stored everywhere in a web. They call it the karmic web. It is stored everywhere. So this karma depends whether the Atman spends time in heaven or hell. Once the janma is over, depending on the amount of karma accumulated, the Atman essentially sheds 50% of the sukarma and 50% of the kukarma accumulated by in that particular janma. So When one renounces all such karma, one does not invite responsibility for their own karma and thus is indifferent to karma. Only part of karma, both the sukarma and the kukarma, are burnt by the short stay in Swarga and Naraka respectively. So, essentially explaining what happens here, how is karma classified as sukarma and kukarma? It is classified on the basis of intent and not result. Assume you want to hit someone with a stone. You pick up a stone and throw it at the person, and it does not hit the person. It misses and falls somewhere. Essentially, the result is that he did not hurt the person, but the intent was to hurt him or her. So, you know what your intent is exactly, whether it's a good intent or a bad intent. And if the karma is done with a bad intent, it becomes a kukarma. No one else can classify your karma. Only you know what your karma is, whether it's a sukarma or a kukarma. Most of the times, when we try to do something really good and it fails, we assume it is a bad karma, wrong karma. That is not how it is defined. Our intent was good and therefore it is sukarma, good karma. Su means good, ku means bad. So, when your intent is not correct, it becomes kukarma. So, part of this karma, punya and papa, which is gained because of sukarma and kukarma, is burnt in hell and heaven respectively, Swarga and Naraka. After that, the Atman moves back to another body. And in the upcoming chapter, we will be looking into more shlokas which will explain this in detail, how Jirnani Vastrani Yatha Vihaya and new Sharira is taken up by the Atman. We will deal with that part in the next chapter in detail, but let us understand now that it goes into a new individual. The Atman occupies a new Sharira and it starts with that remaining karma, be it good karma or bad karma. A part of it remains, and that is called prarabdha karma. That is how we start our life with. This prarabdha karma determines a lot of things like luck. What we call luck is this prarabdha karma actually, and this prarabdha karma determines when situations happen to us. For example, when we are going to an important interview, if our vehicle gets punctured, it is a very critical situation. Our karma ensures that such a situation doesn't occur. When a puncture occurs, it occurs when we are doing something which is not very important, like we are going to the park. We just took the car out of our home and we are just going for a round. And at that time, if it gets punctured, it is not critical or crucial. This is what our prarabdha karma determines. It does not determine you getting good luck in your life. It determines when these actions happen, when the karma occurs to you. If it occurs to you during a critical time, it means you can assume it is your karma acting upon you. If it happens to you when you get help easily, that is your punya acting on you. So, we essentially know now that we need to spend time in Naraka to burn 50% of the essentially 50%, give or take, half of the papa in Naraka, and we need to spend a particular amount of time to burn it. According to Arjuna, the papa which is gained because of this action, the kulagna action, is so exceedingly high that the time needed to be spent in Naraka will be very incredibly high. Therefore, he says, we will be staying there for eternity. It is like saying, it is like giving you 150 kilos of rice and asking you how many days you will take to complete this. You will say, oh, I will take eternity. எவ்வளோ நாளானாலும் முடியாது, they will say in Tamil. And essentially, it will take a very, very, very long time to consume this rice. In the same way, to burn that papa, it will take an exceedingly long time that it will feel like eternity to us. So, therefore, he says, I have heard, O Krishna, from my gurus that the papa which is arjita from this, the papa arjana that has happened due to this karma is so incredibly high that we will be spending eternity in hell for this. Therefore, O Krishna, we cannot do this. We cannot fight this war. We will be repeatedly learning more and more and more about this aspect of karma, karma bandha, what is moksha, how to gain moksha, Ashtanga Yoga, everything in the next chapter. We must understand this is a chapter where Arjuna puts out his heart, laments, we can say, puts out his regrets essentially. He continues saying, Aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadrajya sukhalobhena hantum swajana mudyataham. Aho bata mahat papam. Alas, we misguided and blinded people have become prepared to commit this grave sin. O Krishna, all these days I was thinking that Dhritarashtra and his sons were blind. King Dhritarashtra is blinded by moha, putra moha, and his sons are blinded by greed. Even we are blinded by greed, aren't we? For the sake of this kingdom, aho bata mahat papam. We have prepared to commit this grave sin. He says, Yadrajya sukhalobhena. The motive to win over a kingdom has brought us people to the Kurukshetra and has put us against our own people. We are now standing against our own relatives, ready purportedly to injure and kill them if needed. For what gain? After all, a kingdom, a small portion of land on earth. If you offered me the 3 worlds, I would not take it at this point of time. And now we are looking at a situation where I have to fight this war just to gain a small piece of land. Oh Krishna, this war is not justified at all, he says. We will continue looking at his lament in the next session, which will be essentially the last session of the first chapter. It has taken 13 sessions to complete the first chapter alone, and I can assure you that it will take more to complete the second chapter, which is even bigger but even more interesting as we proceed in that path. Any questions on karma bandha can be placed in the comment section, or anyone who has a doubt can contact me. I will leave my mobile number or my email ID in the description of the video. You can send me a message, you can write an email, I will reply regarding any clarifications in the matter of karma bandha. Regarding the energy view of karma, it is still an existing research going on of how karma is stored in the world and how karma acts upon people. An extrapolated version of this is the simulation theory, which states that we are all living in a simulation and different actions happen to us at different points of time depending on how the program is run, and we are all programmed beings. This is one aspect that is being researched for a long time now. So this karma bandha has a huge influence on everyone's life. We must all try to renounce action, and I will try to elaborate on how to renounce action in the upcoming session. I conclude my today's session discourse by praying upon Sri Krishna's lotus feet to clear all our misconceptions, doubts, and and lack of clarity in just the manner how he cleared it for Arjuna. I am sure we all have doubts, but Arjuna has more or less paraphrased it for us. He has asked the questions that we have in mind. If you just translate the version of war to today's problems, you can see all your questions being placed. And I am sure that the answers to these questions will be even more interesting. And if Krishna was able to convince Arjuna to fight back after all this inhibition, isn't that the reason why he is called the Paramatman? So, with that humble thought, I place my salutations upon the Lord's lotus feet. गोविन्देति सदा ध्यानं गोविन्देति सदा जपं गोविन्देति सदा ध्यानं सदा गोविन्दकीर्तनं स्वस्तिः प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः सज्जनाः सन्तु निर्भयाः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्।